Well, hello and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show with me, Andrew Eborn. And I'm delighted, as always, to highlight of the week for me is being joined by Errol Musk. How are you, Errol?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks very much.
Always a joy, always a joy. Well, let's start off. I talked last time. We always talk about your son. I thought we should find out a bit more about you, as well as getting you to comment on that sort of stuff. And it was Aristotle who said, "Give me a child until the age of 7, and I'll show you the man." What's your earliest memory?
Well, yes, I think that's true. The first 5 or 6 years of a child's life are very formative. And, you know, uh, there's no doubt about it. What you do in those first 5 or 6 years with a child has a tremendous bearing on their lives. Yes. My earliest memory, oh boy, I know this sounds ridiculous. This sounds ridiculous. When I was still in a pram, I think I must have been in a pram, let's say. I, my parents were, I must, I was living, we were living in a part of Johannesburg, which was at the time very, very, very beautiful, called Empire Road. And
Right.
my parents apparently lived in a little house there. And this house was one of those old houses, had a long passage. And I have this recollection of watching the ceiling go by. And it was because of the trauma at the end of the passage. There was obviously a step down.
Right.
And when the pram reached the step down, I had become accustomed to the, because I was lying on my back, of course, as a
Yes.
baby or something. I was accustomed to the sudden drop of my head backwards. And so, as a little thing, I began steeling myself to this drop that would happen.
Right.
And I would watch the ceiling go by, no doubt the light in the ceiling, I suppose, hanging there, and then suddenly this drop. And I'd learned that it doesn't mean you've fallen, off a building or something. It means you'd be soon be back up again.
Right.
And but initially it was a shock, you see. So I must have been, I mean, I must have been a baby in a pram because all I saw was this square outside the pram, the
Yes.
lid of the pram. So that's my earliest memory. And it's a memory that was embedded in my mind because of the trauma of the back step, of the
Right.
step at the front door that would cause me to fall backwards. I
That-
mean, as crazy as it sounds, that is a memory that I have.
Well,
Other memories I have,
yes. It is strange, isn't it? Those sort of early memories and early trauma, because it sort of prepared you, if you like, for saying, okay, this is going to be the journey. I'm going to get out of this. It's going to be a bit
I'm going to
traumatic for a
fall.
moment.
Yes, I'm going to fall backwards and die or
Right.
something as a baby. And so I realized after a while that it's going to happen, but I'll be okay. So I remember that quite clearly. And as I sit here, I remember it as though it just happened.
Right.
And and I'm 78 now, so I still remember it. But at any rate, other things that I remember as a child, I was in grade 1, and I was at a very ordinary school in Twist Street, in the gold mining area of Johannesburg at the time, which was very vibrant at the time, very, very vibrant place. I was in a school that was called Twist Street School, and a lot of interesting people went to Twist Street School. It was a school that sort of catered for very poor people and sort of well-off people as well. And I don't think there were that many private schools in those days. Anyway, I had no possibility of going to a private school. My parents lived in a boarding house, and we had 2 rooms, which made us sort of well off compared to the other people. But at any rate, I was put into grade 1 at the school, and I was quite good at art. So I suppose I was. I mean, I didn't know at the time, and I was a very big aficionado of Noddy,
Right.
and
Yes.
so so in this class during the break, I never had money for sweets or anything like that, or I never even had sandwiches. So when everybody went out for the break, I drew a picture of Noddy on the blackboard, on the green board. It was actually a green board, not a
Right.
blackboard. And I drew this picture in color with all these lovely chalk pieces that I had there. And I drew this picture. It's probably about, I don't know, about 15 inches high, maybe 20 inches high. It was quite a large picture, as I recall. But it was all in color, and it was a pretty good rendition of Noddy. And, the works. I was good at that kind of thing. I'm still good. I do a lot of portraiture now.
Yes,
And
I've seen you sent me some of your fantastic portraits of your family. We'll share those later on. But
yes, yes. Well,
you,
anyway, yeah, the last one, just the Prince of Elon's portrait, was sold for about £300,000.
good
Just a few prints.
heavens!
Yeah. Anyway, so not for me, I just for a charity. But
Right.
at any rate, I drew this picture on the board, and there was nothing else on the board. It was clean.
Yeah.
And everybody came back into class. And I remember the teacher's name was Mrs. Goldstein. I have a good memory of names. And she said, who drew this? Who did this? Pointing to this picture, you see. So I thought, oh. And then I thought, oh, what's now? As a little boy of 6 or 7, I don't know what to think. So I said, I did. So she was, I don't know, I can't remember what happened particularly after that, but the principal arrived, Mr.
Right.
Fulyun, and he arrived, and I still remember him quite clearly in his grey suit and everything, and his goggles, glasses, and so on. And they chatted and everything, and then they came to me and they said, "Did you do this?" I said, "Yes, I did it. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll take it off. It's okay. You don't have to. It just comes off." I thought, don't worry. Anyway, the long and short was, I was bundled off to grade 2.
Right.
Apparently, they thought I was not suitable for grade 1, so I was put in the grade 2 class. In the days that followed, I think. I'm not sure exactly how it happened. And that sounds rather grand, of course, except that when I got to the grade 2 class, the grade 2 kid said to me, "I don't belong there. I must go back to grade 1. I'm not wanted." So no matter what I did, I was like the loser, and it was like ostracized in the grade 2 class because I wasn't supposed to be there. You know how kids are.
Yeah.
I
Oh no,
remember that.
they came in. So rather than being penalized or punished for drawing on the green board, as you say, they actually thought you were more advanced than your years, and therefore we're going to bump you up a year. Is that it?
Yes, they bumped me into grade 2. But I had the advantage that I had a very sort of, I might say, in a way, a sort of demanding mother. She was British, but her mother was an Afrikaans woman. My grandfather had come out to South Africa during the Boer War, and he'd married this Afrikaans girl and gone back with her to England. And so my mother was born in England and very British, but she was half South African Dutch from a very prominent Dutch family. Anyway, she was a very demanding sort of person, my mother, and she expected me to sort of learn ABC and everything as a child. So I was quite good at things in general. There were no computers then, but I do notice that I have a 7-year-old son now, and when he's in grade 1,
Yes.
and I bought him an iPad, and with this iPad, he basically does everything, and he's learned to read quite well. And he's only 7; he's way ahead of his class, and so we sort of worried about it. And to give you an idea of what he did, he went onto the internet and replaced my YouTube ID with his ID. He went on to Disney, the Disney Channel,
Right.
took my credit card, and enrolled himself on the Disney Channel, and he's 7.
Right. Good
I mean,
heavens.
I don't know. It's like, what the hell? So now I hide my card from him. He took my card again when
Yes.
he had an opportunity, and he's not a bad. He doesn't quite comprehend. And I know this is hard to believe, but in the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, he bought games on Apple
Right.
for 13,000 rands. That's about £200.
Right. Good heavens.
He bought £200 worth of games on the Apple.com network.
Right.
Until I couldn't. At first, I got the call from the bank that I just spent £200 or some amount on £50 on some, or it was 4,000 rand. So it'd be two. What am I saying? 600? No, it's about £600. Sorry, it's about
Right.
600. And I just bought £200 worth of games on Apple, and I immediately contacted the bank. This is in the last week or so, and I said, there's something wrong here. I didn't buy this, and turned out that it was this little boy of mine. So I spoke to him about it, and he thought it was rather funny. And oddly enough, I bought him a lot of toys, and when we explained to him how much he'd spent, he came to me and said, "Look, Dad, I realize what I've done. So I'm quite prepared that you sell all my toys, and you can have the money," he said, "for all his toys, you see." So I thought that was rather decent of him.
Right.
I said, "Well, no, it's all right. Don't worry about it. But we're not doing this anymore." I explained to him that for the price of these games, you could have bought another iPad.
Yeah, but it is the problem, isn't it? I think yes, the rand at the moment. I was just checking; it's about 23 rand to the pound. I mean, it's pretty tough at the moment, isn't it, for rand? Because I remember when I was there, it was about 7 rand.
Yes, well, people they adjust to the exchange rate. We have a strange situation in South Africa. In the past, and here I speak as an engineer, so please don't think of me as a racist. I'm very much not a racist. I have a black builder who works for me, and every time we see each other, because I give him a lot of bonuses, he insists on a hug.
All right.
So we hug profusely, So I'm totally not a racist of any kind whatsoever. But at any rate, what was I going to say now? Where were we?
You were just talking about the conversion, because I was saying it's about 7 rand when I last visited.
Oh yes,
it's about 23 now. Yes,
people become adjusted to the conversion rate, and in the times of apartheid, which I obviously didn't agree with apartheid. Nobody could possibly agree with that. It's something we inherited from, I suppose, the European countries, England and so on. It was not something it was the leftovers of a past era. I think people can easily understand that. There's really very, very little racism in South Africa today. I've never seen anything racist. The last time I've seen anything racist, I could say, was in the United States. I've seen racism at work, but I haven't seen anything of the
what did you see? I mean, you mentioned. I mean, people obviously talk about this all the time about racism, and it's a label they slap around people. We've had that when you had the Meghan Markle and the Prince Harry interview. They talk about racism. You have a racist label applied to virtually anything these days. What was the evidence you saw in the States? You mentioned about.
Well, more in America, it's more the way white people that I know there talk. And they are, look, America is a place that is fixated on tidiness, fixated on perfection. Right. I mean, we had a house in Malibu, a beautiful house, which in fact cost a lot of money. I mean, it was about £20 million for this house, and which my son bought for me,
right,
and my wife's son. And it was lovely living in Malibu. Anyway, if you had a gutter or something, you know what a gutter is,
yes,
on the side of the house for the rain and so on. If it fell skew, or I think of that actually, because that actually happened, your neighbor will either come and see you, or he'll call the council and say your gutter's skew, and you're expected to, fix it. They are really, sort of, as I said, fixated on tidiness and cleanliness.
Well, I mean, and neighborliness, by the sound. Well, I know what a gutter is. That's where you can find some journalists sometimes.
No, sure. No, gutter on the roof. But no. The Americans are fixated on tidiness. I don't know if it's Germanic or something, but you won't find a piece of litter or anything of the kind anywhere in America. I mean, they used to have a fine system where you were fined about $600 if you dropped a match or something,
Right, good heavens.
And, it's a very tidy place. And of course, actually, the other races are not that tidy. And so this annoys the white Americans considerably, And so I noticed that with people that I've been with there, I'll give you an example. I was in America about 8 weeks ago, and I had driven a long distance, and I had severe back pain. I think it was just from sitting in one position. And we were outside my daughter's house in a very lovely suburb. And I thought to myself, that if I lie down, we were waiting for an Uber, by the way, to take us to our hotel. And I thought, well, if I lie down on this concrete paving on the sidewalk, I could kind of like, you know, work on my back a bit, sort of push my back into the concrete. You know how people might do something like that. Anyway, so I lay down on the concrete and I thought, well, I'll sort of roll on my back on the concrete, you see, and that will like alleviate this particular pain I had in my back, upper back, you see, from sitting in one position or something. And I'd hardly lain down for about, I don't know, 15 to 20 seconds when a car pulled up, stopped and pulled up onto the side. And they came and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, my back, so I'm trying to massage my back." "Oh, no," they said, "you can't do that in public. Get up, get up, I was outside my daughter's house. They said, "Where do you live?" I said, "Well, this is my daughter's house." They were very unimpressed, very unimpressed. So they're a little bit odd, in that respect. And so America is very, they'll talk about, the other races as being sort of a problem for them because they're not as tidy, as the Americans would like them to be. So that's what I see in America. Here, unfortunately, we get used to, them. They don't particularly see a plastic bag, thrown down as litter. They see it more as I don't know, they see it as a bit of an ornament or something. They don't worry about it. And of course, it's annoying to white people to see trash being thrown around. But at any rate, so I've seen that kind of thing. But coming back to racism, or rather to South Africa's rand, in the times of apartheid, the white people were, to a certain extent, given the task of, sort of looking after the black people to a large extent. I know it sounds sort of patronizing or something, but we provided the education. They had very good schools here in apartheid times for the black people. They had everything. They had very, very good hospitals. I know because I designed some of them. They received the very best of treatment. And of course, this costs the white people a lot of money. And so to think that white people were really well off, no, we had to pay for all that. So the average white person was not living a luxurious lifestyle by any means. But anyway, since the end of apartheid, all that kind of responsibility has fallen away. So now white people are not responsible to look after, the black people, let's say, anymore. And so hospitals have deteriorated unimaginably. They're not even places that you would even want to walk inside. They are so bad. And education has fallen to pieces. But at the same time as all that's happened, the white people now have their own, they can use their incomes for their own purposes. So what I notice is that the white people in South Africa are living a life better than they've ever lived before because they can use their income and the money they make on themselves.
Right.
And they don't have to have that problem anymore. And so you have the black areas now don't pay the electricity bills and their water bills and so on. And we're not responsible for that anymore. And so they are sit without electricity and without water and so on. And white people have everything there because we earn a lot. Somehow we seem to earn money. We own all the businesses, mainly because we started all the businesses. And so it's not the greatest situation. And as far as the rand being weaker than it was, it's around about has been around about 19, 20 rands to the dollar for a long time. You mentioned 23. I think that's Mexico. Oddly enough, is 23 rand Mexican dollars to the rand. I noticed another lovely place to be in Mexico, actually. But at any rate, so South Africa adjusts itself to the exchange rate, right. And the white people, as I say, are doing well. And whereas in the past, it was actually the white people's task to sort of fill in for people who weren't making, a good living.
Right.
So
So
that's what.
those were the days. I mean, we'll come back to Rushy and his massive spending online in a moment. But just to deal with the racism side. I mean, as you say, under the days of apartheid, and they were appalling days, and you were one of the big campaigners against that. But you're saying there was a different obligation in those days, so the whites would look after the blacks. Is that how it worked?
Well, yes, it was the way it worked. The white people provided everything that the black people needed. I know it sounds patronizing, but it's the truth. And you know, there was no black entrepreneurship to be seen anywhere, and so that's just the way it was, and it's not like that anymore. And the result is that you can ask anyone in South Africa, black or white, are black people better off now than they were then? Now, of course, they're better off in terms of human rights and all that sort of stuff, but they're not better off financially by any means whatsoever. Not by any means whatsoever. It's never been as bad as what it is now, and so I really can't add any more to that. As I say, the white people are very enterprising. It's part of the European thing, I suppose, and they aren't really held responsible for it anymore. So, for example, in the past, I might pay my electricity and water, but I would be paying far more than people in other countries because I'm paying for people in areas that aren't paying
Right.
for their water and electricity. And now it doesn't happen. That's not happening anymore.
Sure.
And it's also one of the reasons why our electricity supply company, which is back owed about, I don't know, hundreds of billions from these other communities, because they never paid for anything. And it's very hard for Eskom to switch off the electricity supply, people to switch off the power. And at the same time, they're not getting paid for it. So, yeah, that's the kind of situation we have. And it's rather unfortunate. In fact, the majority of our working black population now is made up of people from Zimbabwe. There must be about I don't know how many exactly, but I seem to recall about at least 3 million or so people of the 8 million who live in Zimbabwe are now in South Africa, and they work here. They're very hardworking people and very, very good to employ. They're very pleased to have employment, because in South Africa they can earn, a couple of £100 a month at least, or maybe even more, maybe £300 a month. I know it sounds little, but it buys a lot in Africa.
Right.
And they send that money back to their country. And whereas in their own country, they would be extremely lucky to earn £10 a month.
Right.
So
Well, it's an interesting suggestion, Errol, that there's more racism in America than there is in South Africa. I know, quite extraordinary. And you think it's really simply a different attitude? Is that basically it?
Well, it's not so much racism as angry, a dislike of people who don't have the same, perfect. They want everything perfect. So if you're home, in fact, in America, I was talking about this to someone just the other day, because I'm very fond of washing my own motor cars.
Right.
And I have quite a number of cars here. So
How many do you have? How many do you have altogether? I know
seven here at the moment.
Seven cars,
Yeah, I
seven
have
children,
garage
one for each child.
No. They've got their own cars. But no, these are mine. I buy cars for other people as well. So I have other cars that are not with me at the moment. I mean, they at my with other people anyway. So yeah. So I bring the cars out occasionally, one or two, and then I'll decide to give it a wash down, because when I give it a wash down, I'm able to see what's wrong with it. I don't know if you know what I mean. I can see where something's not right. Whereas, it's a sort of a way of seeing what's not right. I always used to say to my two boys, Elon and Kimball, when they were small, I made them wash cars. Yeah. I said, if you can wash a car properly, you can do anything. If you can wash a car properly, then you can do anything. And I must have told them that from a very young age. And I do remember once my second wife came along with her car one day, and she'd had a little baby. She lost her husband in a car accident, and the baby had spilled milk in the car and so on, or powdered milk or something. And I said to Kimball, clean this car, you see, while she was visiting. And he cleaned the car. And when she went out, she nearly fell on her back. She couldn't believe it. How well he had cleaned this car. It looked like it could go back on the showroom floor.
Right.
But that's what I taught them. And that's why they do so well. So if you want to know why Elon can do so well, it's because I taught him how to clean a car properly.
What age
It sounds
what age
funny,
was
but
he?
it's not funny. It's true.
No, good. What age was Elon when you started getting him cleaning cars?
Oh, no, they were washing cars at the age of 3. So, well, they wouldn't really wash the car. They'd come out, I'd wash the cars. I had all these nicer sort of, and aircraft, by the way, in those days, and I loved cleaning them. And they'd get their sponge and they'd do the wheels or pretend or think they were doing the wheels.
Right.
So from a very young age, I made them do it. And I gave them, as my daughter Tosca said years later, when she's now 50, oddly enough, this year. I still think of her as a child. But anyway, she told people when we were when she was living in South Africa with me, I would. They always talked about going to America because I took Tosca to America when she was 5 for the first time. She was 5 years old. To go when she was 5 years old for about 6 weeks to America, and I always used to say to them, they all wanted to go back to America, and I said, well, if you're going to go to America, you're going to have to learn how to do things like wash cars, mow the lawn, wash dishes and all that sort of stuff. So Tosca told people years later when she was interviewed, she's had many interviews, what prepared her or something to the effect of going to America. And she said, well, my dad used to make us play America, America when we were kids. And she said, well, they said to her, what's America, America? And I said, well, America, America is you mow the lawn, you wash the dishes, you sweep the floors, you even vacuum, and you wash cars. That's called playing America, America. She told people that. She made that up. It was her thing to play America, America. And that's how I prepared them. But anyway, so I was cleaning the cars here, and some chap came by and he said, I can't believe. He said, what, why? And of course, America's much worse than this. No one washes a car in America in their driveway. Well, I've never seen it. You go to a car wash because there are people who wash cars and there are people who do what you do. So you washing cars in America, you're sort of depriving someone of their income. I mean, you're sort of moving into somebody else's field.
Right.
So you just don't do that. You don't mow your lawn in America. Somebody comes and mows your lawn. That gives you more time to do whatever it is you do. So you don't go out with a lawnmower and sweat your way through a lawn. There are people who come and do it for you. So in America, there's somebody who does everything for you that you are not supposed to do. And I saw this here now in South Africa. So I live in a nice suburb and I was washing these cars and a chap pulled in. He said, I can't believe it. He said, why are you washing your own car? I said, well, I like it. He said, no, that's for somebody else to do. You must take it to the car wash. His friend's got a car wash that does a much better job. Anyway, be that as it may, in America, you sort of don't do things like that. You don't mow your lawn. And so it's funny for me when I'm over in America with my family. I've got all these people there. And my daughter, Alexandra is married to a very fine chap, a steward, and they are a very fancy family in America. Anyway, apart from that, he's a very down-to-earth guy. But at his house one day, when we were at his house, he received a citation because his lawn was too long. Oh, that's another thing. His lawn wasn't particularly long. It's maybe about 3 inches.
Right.
And he received a citation for $150.
No.
Yes, that's £100 to mow his lawn, unless he did it within 3 days and presented, or I don't know, then they would reduce it or they would take it away, the citation, you see. Gave him a warning citation. So anyway, so I thought, well, let's go and mow the lawn, because he had a lawnmower. So no. They phoned a place. And 2 hours later, along comes a team and they mow the lawn.
Right.
And he never mowed the lawn because he's now infringing on something that other people are supposed to do, I remember when I had a yacht, a very beautiful yacht, which the boys bought me as Chi Yu. It was built in Taiwan. It was a 5-layer wedding cake sort of yacht with 2 800 horsepower turbocharged engines. It had stabilizers. You could take it to Hawaii. And anyway, I'd had other yachts in South Africa, and I'd always had to look after them myself. But when I was in Marina del Rey, I was told the underside of the yacht has to be cleaned every 6 weeks, and the the holding tanks, which are used for they have to be sucked out by the so-called honeysuckers every week,
Right.
whether you like it or not. So I said, well, I'll do it myself. I'll clean the underside myself. I'll put on my wetsuit and goggles and everything. I'll go and clean the underside. No, 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 no. That has to be done by. No, no, nobody does anything like that. Nobody here does anything like that. There are people who do that. Oh, I said, and how much is it? Oh, it's $40 a time. Well, that was quite cheap. And then the honeysucker, I thought, well, that's unnecessary because I'm not hardly even using it. And there were machines you can use. I said, I'll do that. No, 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 you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. That's only $7, but you have to have it done. and, and so it was really weird. And in terms of like looking after your yacht, I was quite used to bringing my yacht out onto the so-called hard, where you bring it up onto the hard yourself. Oh, no, 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 you're not allowed to do that. There are people who do that. And when it comes time for your annual, inspection or annual service, rather, you have to have, they do it. You don't have any choice.
Right.
And I remember the first time I had the boat out, it was $7,500, which was, I suppose, about £6,000. £6,000 to have the yacht looked at. And I thought, this, of course, the family paid for it, but I thought, oh, this would never have happened in South Africa. I do it myself,
Right, right. It is extraordinary because we're now getting machines to do all of those tasks that we don't want to do. And AI, artificial intelligence, is basically automating all those sort of things that we would otherwise do. I mean, I always think that if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, what are your views?
Well, yes, of course. By not looking after the yacht yourself, you don't really know what's going on. But when they're very sort of, they're extremely organized in the States. I mean, they are, I imagine maybe in England too, but they're very, very organized. So when it's time for your particular boat to come out, they not only, if you happen to be living on your yacht, which at that time I was, it was like a home. I mean, it had indoor plumbing and showers and bathrooms and everything. So they come along and tell you your boat's due to come out. We are coming to take your boat. And you say, well, I'm living on a boat. Oh, no, they've organized this and this for you in the meantime. You're going to be staying here or there. And you go, oh. And it's just too amazing for words. The whole thing, of course, it's greased by a lot of money.
Right.
So a lot of money keeps it greased. Of course, I think the money wasn't there. The greasing, it would stop. So, but as long as you're greasing the thing, you are just looked after like a baby. I mean, you don't, for example, in America, arrive at a place where you're going to have a meal or a restaurant or a hotel, for that matter, and in your nice motor car and find a place to park in the basement and wind your way up. No, 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 no. You pull up and there's some bloke who takes your car, and you want to say to him, listen, do you know how to drive this car? Never mind. And he's in a red, and he looks at you like you're a total idiot.
Right.
And he says, and off he goes with your car, and you have no idea where your car is going.
Yeah.
No idea.
Or if you'll see it ever again.
You could drive it home.
That's right.
And then you come out of the restaurant or your hotel, and you say, my car, please, and boom, then your car is there.
Yes.
And if they're really organized, it comes back cleaned.
Oh my goodness, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's part of the problem, though, isn't it, Errol? Because if eventually all of those sort of tasks that we're delegating to different parts of society are going to be replaced by machines, and then what's going to happen to that workforce that does the cleaning and the driving and so on and so forth? What are they going to do?
Well, I suppose it's true what you say. I suppose new type of jobs take their place. I would imagine. All I know is that at the moment, having just been there, everything is done for you, and the whole process is around you pay online or something, or your account or something, but you also have to have your tip value, your tip money with you.
Right.
So you always have to have your tip money, which you have to hand over, and so that's quite serious. You always have to have $100 on you somehow, so that because you're going to have this, hand this money over. every time somebody brings your car back up, it's $20 or
Right.
10. Well, I've never been shy. I've always been too shy to give somebody $10. I mean, that's not enough.
Yeah.
That you're afraid they're going to like embarrass you in front of everyone and say, well, no, it's all right. You need it more than I do, or something. So you give them $20 and they seem to say, thank you. And off
Right.
they go.
It is
But,
strange, isn't it? Because I think there's a tipping culture, isn't it, in America and different places. I
oh,
mean,
it's unbelievable. The tipping now, they now have machines. So,
yes,
for example, that hasn't happened to me with valets, car valets, but let's say you go to a car valet or pull up at a restaurant. I went to a restaurant called Bilbo or something. It belonged to Elon. It's
yes,
the biggest steakhouse, the most popular steakhouse in Los Angeles, and he owns it. And we went there, and it's got a red carpet that goes into it, and the cars pull in. And as we pulled in, my daughter said to me, "Oh, I didn't know who this was at the time." Um, uh, um, she said to our driver, we were in a Rolls Royce, by the way, from the hotel's Rolls Royce, not our Rolls Royce. And the Beverly Watch has a Rolls Royce for a sort of shuttle or something, or service car for the guests. Anyway, so my daughter said, "Oh, let this car in front of us go in first," and the car pulled up, and then out got this girl, and they'd recognized it was Jennifer Lawrence. And
right.
I didn't really know who it was, although I suppose in a halfway I did. Anyway, she got out. My two daughters were very excited because they thought she was quite something.
Yes.
And those are the kind of people that at this restaurant. And well, I'm digressing here. And I thought, well, how on earth are we going to be sitting in this restaurant? It's huge, but there's absolutely no place for anyone. And when we got to the door, uh, they just said, "Oh," and they took us, and right in the middle of the restaurant, right in the center, was a circular table that was completely empty. That was our table,
Oh, the
and it could
Musk
seat about
table.
10 people. It could seat
Right.
about 10 people, but it was just the three of us.
Right. Oh,
So
glorious.
it's nice. It's a nice life in that respect.
Yeah,
But
it
anyway,
sounds good.
coming back to the tipping. So I haven't seen this with car valets, but if you go there now in the last visit, they present you with a machine. It's like a tipping machine. So
Yes.
you don't actually give them money anymore. Not always. In many of the places, they present you with a machine, and then the minimum tip is 17%,
Right.
and then they have another tip which is 25%,
Yes.
and then there's another tip which is 35%. So you can choose, and what you do is you tap on whichever tip you're going to give. You see,
Right.
and again, I sort of found myself too embarrassed to hit the 17
Yes.
and too sort of stingy to hit the 35. So I sort of go for the middle one, and I hope I don't get any funny comment,
Yeah.
or I don't wind up running with my tail between my legs. But that's what I've been doing. Just hit the 20, hit
No,
the
I
25.
think it's a fascinating culture. Well, listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have a deeper dive into your childhood, your life, and the joys of bringing up a child and the effect it can have on them. But for now, Errol
Okay.
Musk, thank you for joining us.
Okay.